Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the February iCoder member meeting. Very excited about this conversation. As you can see, there's a lot of energy and excitement. I'm just going to need to keep hitting the admit button because we have more people coming into the waiting room. Before we get in to our guest today, Dispute and Renee, I just want to let everybody know that the plans for ODR 2026 are advancing rapidly. If you haven't checked out the website at odr2026.org, please do. This is the ODR forum this year. We're going to be meeting at Harvard, and it's going to be on June 11th. And then the day after, there's a conference on arbitration and mediation in the age of AI, apt topic, at Suffolk Law School. And then that's on the Friday, the 12th. And then we're actually going to have a hackathon at Suffolk Law School on Saturday, the 13th. So the website has all the details. We've tried to create a lot of clarity. Leah and Dan and I are talking about the agenda. If anybody wants to present anything, please let me know. We have spots not only during the ODR forum, but also some spots at the Suffolk Day. So it should be really fun. I got a bunch of tickets, a block of tickets for the Red Sox game on Friday night. If anybody wants to join, and we're going to be celebrating Ethan. Ethan's contributions in creating the ODR field. So I think it's going to be a really fun event. So please join us if you can. All right. And with that, any other announcements or information people want to share before we dive in? Okay, good. Let's have as much time as possible for our guests. So, I've had such a good time getting to know Renee and seeing all the amazing things that she's doing at Dispute.ai, Dyspute.ai. And I think it's going to be really, really interesting to learn about all the great work that she's doing. So, Renee, thank you so much for joining today. And I'll hand you the conch.
All right. Thanks for having us. It's great to be here and to see everyone and see all the engagement. And to highlight the earlier point, we welcome all the help in refining our product. And we are not mediators. We just love mediation. And so we want to have an open discussion today and hear your thoughts and ways to improve the product. So looking forward to that. We do have a little deck. Michelle, where are you? Can you share that? Just to aid in our intro. So I'll start talking. So I'm Renee Jackson. I'm the founder and CEO of Dispute.ai. I came up with the idea for the platform almost 2 years ago now. I actually teach negotiations at the University of New Hampshire. So your conversation about, negotiating with roommates hits home. And it was during teaching that class, I assigned the students a midterm assignment of how can AI be used in negotiations? And a lot of them referenced a study that I had also seen that said two people who are negotiating that have access to ChatGPT came to better results faster than if only one had access or if neither of them had access. And it was a Forbes article. And at the end of the article, there was kind of like a throwaway sentence about, I wonder if AI can be used in mediation. And that was all it took to get the thought going in my head. And so we've been steadily building Dispute AI over the last 2 years. We launched in beta in March of 2025, and then we recently launched V2, which is a totally improved and different experience about a month ago. So we're looking forward to meeting everyone today. By way of background, I am a lawyer. I trained in employment law for about 7 years at a mid-sized law firm, and then I went in-house to various tech companies in the Bay Area. Starting off as employment counsel and then all the way up to chief legal officer. And now I live in New Hampshire and I have my own law firm. I founded Dispute and I teach at the University of New Hampshire. And I'm thrilled to be joined by my co-founder and our fractional CPO. So I'll let them do a quick little intro and then we'll get into it.
And Hi everyone, I'm Frank, and I've had the pleasure of knowing and working with Renee for about 10 years. We met actually at Zynga, a video game company in the Bay Area. I'm an IP lawyer by training, practicing for about 22 years. And Renee mentioned this project to me a couple of years ago, and I immediately jumped on the advisory board. I thought it was really interesting. As an IP lawyer, you see thousands, quite literally thousands of disputes almost yearly. Some of them are very small, but some of them could be very large. And I've sat through a couple dozen mediations and arbitrations in my career as well, both at the law firm but also in-house. And this area seems ripe for innovation, ripe for I hate to use the word disruption, but really disruption to make things more efficient, more accessible, and just smoother for everyone. So I was excited to join as an advisor and then ultimately became the COO and co-founder last year. So thanks for having us.
Hey everyone, I'm Michelle Anderson, the fractional chief product officer. So I've known Renee for a long time. We know each other through the Columbia basketball network. I do not have a legal background, but I have a background in startups and technology. I've been in product for most of my career, and the theme through it has been really making professional services more accessible to people. Most recently, I was head of product at a construction tech company called ClearStory. And prior to that, I spent 4 years at Human Interest, a 401k provider, saw that scale from 2,000 customers up to 30,000 customers. So I'm excited to be working closely with Dispute, bringing my product expertise and really helping, to get to the next level and find traction here.
And we also have a fractional CTO who's a little camera shy, so she will look forward to seeing the recording as well. And she's a great addition to our team. So, all right. So just quickly by way of background, I think I said this before, I'm not a mediator, but I've used mediation very effectively over my career. And so I'm a big fan, but I also think that there are still a lot of inefficiencies in mediation. And I also think that the cost of it has be, can make it out of reach for many people. Okay. So our mission is essentially to bring mediation to more people. That's it, using the power of AI. And, we've combined our backgrounds with, sophisticated AI systems to make ADRI, our AI mediator, which most of you can probably guess how we came up with the name. It's ADR plus the letter I, which tech people love to add on to things. So that's ADRI. We're going to show her next, but we are just to plant the seed. We're looking for early adopters to use ADRI in their practice, and we're looking for like-minded partners to help us build out, kind of an online dispute resolution ecosystem. And so we've partnered with a company called Dispute Buddy. They make it easier to pull text messages from your phone into a PDF. We've partnered with legal template providers that, put us into their standard dispute resolution language. So, we're actively out there trying to build this dispute resolution ecosystem and, really excited to talk to you all today. All right. So without further ado, here's the demo fact pattern that we'll walk through. So it'll be a personal injury fact pattern. Frank Walker, played by Frank, he's the claimant. He's an injured pedestrian. I will be Renee Ryder. I am a cyclist who hit Frank while he was walking. And then we'll kind of show you how the AI mediation works. So both parties will complete an intake chat with Adri, the AI mediator. We'll show you that, Adri will generate a summary of the dispute from each party's perspective that they can edit and send to the other side. The parties will vote on and make their own settlement proposals. Then we do have the functionality to sign a settlement agreement afterwards, and then the parties will return to the dashboard. We also have the ability to process payments both for the mediation and for the settlement in platform. We won't show that, but it is in there. Before we start, though, I want to make sure everyone understands, because this is sometimes a thing that blows everyone's mind. We have taken the mediator's proposal, which usually comes at the end of the mediation when there's a deadlock, and we've brought it to the beginning. So rather than all the gamesmanship of you make the first offer, no, you make the first offer, what should it be? We have Adri make the first settlement proposal for the parties to react to. And from there, they can make direct offers, revise previous proposals, or have Adri keep generating them. But that's one of the ways we kind of cut through some of the inefficiencies of in-person mediation by kind of removing that gamesmanship in the beginning. So just want to make sure everyone knows that, because sometimes that blows everyone's mind when they see it for the first time. All right, Michelle.
Yeah, let me switch over. Can you guys see?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so starting out, I'm logged in. I am Michelle Mediator. So I have invited Frank Walker and Renee Ryder to this dispute and to try to resolve the dispute. So we wanted to show you I'm logged in as the mediation provider. And from here, you can see your active cases and you can go in and just easily create a new case and invite them through. So I've already done this ahead of time. As you can see, I've got a few different examples in there. But you can come in here, select what dispute type, enter your case information and the contact information for both parties and invite them right from here. And that's what kicks off the process as a mediation provider, inviting these folks. So I wanted to sort of set the stage of what that looks like, and then we'll kind of jump over to what the party experience is, which Renee will take over.
All right. So let me share my screen. Am I sharing my screen? Oh, there it is. Okay, so we've pre-completed the intake chat just for purposes of time, but basically both Frank and I at our leisure can complete an intake chat with Adri. And this is how she kind of gathers all the key information about the dispute. So she starts off with, are you here on behalf of yourself, a business, a law firm? Asking for the name, the relationship with the other party, and then kind of an open-ended question about what happened. And then based on the answer to that, she asks follow-up questions about, can you add any key events and dates? Does the other party owe you money? And then ask for documents, to upload any supporting documents that you might have, which I've already done. I uploaded an image of my damaged bike. And then we kind of start to talk about the impact of the dispute on each party. So how have you been impacted negatively by what happened? What do you think would be a fair way to resolve this dispute? So Adri kind of goes through a list of questions meant to elicit, answers from the party about their goals, their interests for settlement. And then, asks if they've discussed it previously, and then asks, kind of an open-ended question to to end it about, is there anything else that you'd like to share? So the party goes through the intake chat, and then at the end of the intake chat, the next step is to generate a mediation summary, which I will do in a second. But before I do that, because it'll take us to another screen, any questions about the intake chat?
Maybe while you think of that, one thing I think worth noting, Renee, is also as the party is responding to Adri, the responses go through a verification process to ensure that they are answering the question to the satisfaction of Adri. And so if they don't provide sufficient information, or if it doesn't really get to, it doesn't satisfy the question, Adri is kind of trained to do follow-up questions to ensure we get the information required.
Any questions about the intake chat? I can't see everyone's faces, so I'm assuming no.
I'm just wondering, does Adri have parameters for like ask 5 questions or stop asking after 10 minutes?
No, she basically has parameters on the back end of like, here's the information that you need to gather.
Okay.
And if it takes 5 questions, if it takes 10 questions, that it doesn't matter. But she knows on the back end, here are the key elements to any dispute that you need to get before we can move on to the next step. So Frank and I have kind of created those questions on our own based on our experience.
Great, thanks.
If it's your first
I have
time,
okay.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So mine is just a short question. So once
Adria tries to take the questions from either of the parties, does the other party get to see what the responses are?
No, so that part of the chat is confidential as it would be in any mediation with a human. So the intake chat is private between the user and Adri. What they will see is on the next step where we generate that mediation summary based on their answers, and then the user can revise that before sending it to the other side. So the other side will see their position and their summary, but won't see their answers.
Yeah, similarly wondering what is the introduction to someone who is using this for the first time? Like, are they told this is confidential? Are they
Yeah.
told how long it takes? What happens next? What does that
They
look like?
are. So we didn't show that screen because we wanted to kind of jump right into it. But before you get into the intake chat, there's kind of a series of screens explaining how the process works. Adding the mediation privilege disclosure, all of those things. So that is covered before they get here. We also kind of tell them what information they will need to complete the chat. And that if they need to, go away and come back, that we do save the answers. So that all comes before this stuff, but that's a great question. All right, so I will go ahead and generate the mediation summary. This takes usually about 10 to 15 seconds. So we'll wait for that to come through. And just a reminder, Frank has already gone through this process on the other side, so that we can move through this quickly. So, he's waiting for me to send my summary to him and join him in the virtual mediation room. So here's the summary based on the answers. I can edit this. If I wanted to, we have this Ask AI functionality, where I could, add that I want, uh, $500. So you can kind of add in using AI, you can add in information to this summary. Oh, well, that wasn't that wasn't the best example, but you can use that to kind of play around with the summary. And when you feel like this is ready to send, you just hit approve, and this goes to Frank. And now, so you can see up here that Adri's generating the first proposal. While she's doing that, I just want to show you around. So this is our virtual mediation room. The mediation can be done synchronous or asynchronous. It's asynchronous by default, which we think is one of the big benefits. So this is the shared documents. These are the summaries that Frank and I exchanged with each other. So you can kind of understand, I can understand his position, he can understand mine as we go into the mediation. And then here are the documents that we shared during the intake. So anything you share during the intake, we let the users know that it will be shared with the other side. So it's like a shared document repository. As the proposals come in, you'll see the proposal history here, but I'm going to go to the current proposal. So this is what Adri created. She put a proposal together based on what Frank and I did in the intake chat. We have the option to accept or reject. This is a pretty simple dispute, so you'll get, a relatively simple proposal for the parties to react to. Frank and I are both going to reject it just to kind of show all the functionality. But if I choose to reject, I get this modal that pops up that, Adri wants feedback. Why are you rejecting it? And so you can say amount, timing, and give actual feedback here. I'll just say I can't afford $3,000 and need a payment plan. Obviously, that we're doing this quickly, but you can put as much in here as you want. So I'll submit the response.
And one thing to note on that the rationale you give is not shared with the other party. That just goes directly to Adri.
Correct. So we have trained Adri specifically on what she can and can't share between the parties, and what she needs to keep confidential between herself and the party. We've got pretty strict guardrails on that. So here I can see that Frank also rejected the proposal. And now I have options. We can have Adri generate another proposal, we can modify the last proposal, or we can make a direct offer to Frank. We'll just have Adri generate another one just to kind of show the functionality. Usually they come in pretty quick.
While that happens, Renee, we do have another question in
Oh, yes,
chat.
please.
Is the application available in other languages? What features does the application have for users with hearing or sight needs?
Great question. It is not yet available in other languages, but we do have localization on our roadmap. We've specifically been asked for Spanish. But you know, I think once we get one language in there, the tools now, so Frank and I used to work at an e-commerce company called Wish, and you would have to have actual human translators translate the content into another language for that country. The technology has come a long way since then. So I think once we get Spanish up and running, we'll be pretty, you know, it'll be pretty easy to then kind of go towards other languages. And then on the accessibility piece, I will say, honestly, at this point, we have not done a ton of work on that, but it is also on the roadmap to, you know, kind of make sure that this is you know, accessible for folks who have hearing impairments, vision impairments, but we have not done that yet. Okay, so we've got another proposal from Adri. This came in while we were talking. The amount went up, which is frustrating, but we did get monthly installments of $250. So you know, she did listen in one way and not in another. I don't know what Frank put on his end, so he probably put something insane.
I wanted a lot more money. That's what I put in.
So I'm going to reject this because it's obviously you know, too much even with the installment payments. So I'll just say I like the installment payments, but can't do more than 2,000. So I'll submit that response. And we'll just do one more round so that we can kind of move to questions.
I'll accept this one just to move things forward, but Renee, you'll have another option to obviously modify.
Yep. Okay, so Frank accepted, and we can go into the proposal history and kind of see. So you can kind of track over time. You could imagine if you do a lot of proposals, you'll be able to kind of see the movement. But the current proposal, Frank accepted, I rejected. I'm just going to use this. This is modify. So basically, the last proposal pops up. I'm going to change this to 2,000. And then I can use that Ask AI feature to add non-disparagement language. So Adra gives users the tools to kind of speak what they want to add and then does it through kind of a red line feature. So I'm going to accept it, even though this is a lot. Adri will then refine it into the language that goes along with the rest of the proposal.
While you do that, Renee, we got a couple more questions in chat.
Yep.
One, there's a photo of Adri, which can imply that Adri is a human. What thoughts do you have about your decision to have a photo of Adri and that it is a woman? And what are your desired impacts by you having made these choices?
Yes. Let's come back to that one because I want to we can show another part that we skipped at the beginning was avatar selection. So I selected that avatar for Adri. After we finish this process, we can show you that just so you can kind of see what it looks like and you know, the thought behind it. And then actually we're curious for your thoughts on that as well. But we'll come back to that. I just made a note.
Okay, and we actually have a bunch more questions. So maybe we just continue with this and then we can jump over to those questions.
All right, so I'm going to send this proposal to Frank. And because since I'm the one who made the offer, it's automatically accepted. So now I just need to wait for Frank to do his thing.
And I'll accept.
Okay, so we reached agreement here, and now we can move on. If you want, the parties can but aren't required to create a settlement agreement. So I'm going to create that settlement agreement. We won't show you a lot about this, but basically what it does is it takes the last proposal and puts it in, into a settlement agreement that we've put together that should comply with the law in all 50 states. And then it has full version control and red line. So I could make an edit here and send it to Frank. And when it gets to him, he will see the exact edit that I made, and it will come through as a version 2. So I don't think we need to show all of that functionality, but there's kind of the red line function and version control right in the settlement agreement. And then it brings you back, while you're working on the document, going back and forth, it brings you back to the dashboard. And once the settlement agreement is signed, you can come back here and process payment if you'd like. And then I won't show my screen, but as we've been doing this, we've been getting transactional emails along the way. So it's meant to be asynchronous. We're obviously doing this synchronously, but we've been getting emails this whole time that said there's a proposal for you to vote on. Frank just accepted a proposal. Please go vote. So there's a lot of transactional comms that are coming through that are meant to kind of drive engagement, even when the person is, not in the virtual waiting room. They could literally be anywhere as long as they have their phone or computer. So I'm going to show you that avatar piece. So
Can I ask
yeah,
a quick question about the
sure.
agreement?
Yeah.
First, I love that you were at Wish. I spent a lot of money at Wish.com, so thank you for the work you did there. Second, with agreements. So I've been working with mediators in different states, and in some states, like let's say Arizona, mediators are not, unless a mediator is an attorney or they are sending the agreement elsewhere, they're not supposed to actually draft the agreement, right?
Okay.
So, and it's not like that in most states, right? I think 45 states, mediators can draft their own agreement and have it be binding and enforceable. But what I'm wondering is for mediators in those states. So let's say if you're a mediator in Arizona where you are not supposed to be the one actually drafting it, I'm wondering if this could be an assist, or would they still have to get somebody else involved to oversee it? It's a bigger question. I'm just wondering if anyone has thoughts on it.
No, it's a great question. And I think from our perspective, it's voluntary, right? So you don't have to
Hmm.
use it.
Hmm.
It could be, you could kind of use it as an MOU, or not use it at all. And so I
Sure.
think to the extent that you were a mediator practicing in one of those states, you would know and advise your clients not to use that settlement agreement. Or honestly, I'd be curious to hear everyone's thoughts. Yes, we say that we are a mediator, but would we be considered a mediator under the Arizona state law? Ethics.
Right.
Like that's a gray area. So I don't know.
Yeah. Or maybe you just take it and have it reviewed by an attorney before you submit it to the courts. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so Frank has finalized the agreement and it is now ready to sign, but we'll just go back. I want to show that avatar selection. So here's the part this isn't the entire flow, but we do ask if there's a demand letter or mediation brief in that they can upload to speed up the chat. And then the next piece is you're invited to select an avatar. And we say, this is a visual preference only. It doesn't affect the AI's reasoning or neutrality. And you can skip it. So we've honestly had some people see this and react of like, ooh, I don't want to pick. Like, what does it mean if I pick the woman with red hair that looks exactly like me? So you can also skip that. if you don't want to pick an avatar. And it does ask you to upload your own photo. So I'm curious for the person who asked the question, because we've received mixed responses to this actually. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it makes a big difference. This is Leah, and I'm the one who asked the question. Appreciate seeing the more information to understand people had choices.
Yep.
And obviously, whenever there's a choice to choose among or to choose not to, that's helpful. The other thing is if I choose an avatar, the other person could choose a different avatar. Is that correct? So,
That's
okay,
correct. Yeah.
that's also fascinating. Um, and I was thinking about how many people might look at the folks on the screen and say that's someone like me, and that makes me feel comfortable, or it's someone not like me, and that makes me feel comfortable. And how that could build a sense of connection, and at the same time, it also feeds an idea that they're connecting with a human when they're not. And so I just think it's a fascinating both technological choice and also ethical issue. Since you're making it clear that they make a choice, and I'm not sure it's an ethical dilemma, but it's a fascinating topic for our field to be considering about what it means to kind of present a sense of connecting with a person when we're not. And I wonder what the psychological impact is of having an avatar, even if they've selected it, to feel like they're connecting with a person, and what the long-term results are if we would collect data on that, not just about a particular case, but about others. And also, there's a uniformity to the pictures, so to speak,
Yeah.
even if there's racial or ethnic diversity. And so that's also something worth a discussion by the field, not just about what you all have done. So I really appreciate you giving us a chance to talk about it.
No, I appreciate your perspective, and it sounds like a study that we should be doing. Great. Okay. Other questions? Sorry, let me catch up
We
on
have
the
a
chat.
long list.
Okay, let's get into it. Before I can stop sharing while we answer questions, or but I can just leave the screen up for people to think about. I'll just do that.
I'm
All right.
tempted, Renee, to have you finish your demo, and then we just do questions through the end of the session. If that's up for
That
you, if that's up to you, but
Yeah,
um,
that the only other thing to show is Michelle, I don't know if you want to share your screen. So all along, so if you remember at the beginning, Michelle is the mediator and she invited us. And so Frank and I were participating as the parties. And that's the experience that you saw. I will stop sharing my screen because Michelle can share a little bit about what the mediator sees. And this is actually an area that we're interested in getting your thoughts, because we are currently making the mediator dashboard a lot more robust. And so we'd love to kind of understand from you all what you would expect to see in a mediator dashboard, assuming you were the mediation provider that was making this service available to your clients. So let's have Michelle kind of show the mediator view.
So you can see my screen again, right?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, so I've got my list of cases here, and I can come in here and view the details of this. And so as the mediator, currently I can see, the summaries that each party has approved and submitted. And I can also see at this point, we've got an accepted proposal, and those responses, and that it's going through to settlement agreement. So Renee has signed that settlement agreement. Frank, we're still awaiting signature. So I can see that sort of audit history, and then I can also go back and see the proposal history. So similar to what the party sees, I've got this visibility as well. The mediator, as in contrast to the parties, the mediator does see the feedback on the proposals by each party. Frank, as promised, says he wants way more money. And then the mediator also can see the shared documents. As Renee said, we are working on sort of expanding on this page and adding more capabilities for the mediator to ensure they have sufficient visibility to support the parties through the process. Any other thoughts or questions here? Otherwise, maybe we just start going through the list.
Yeah, let's do it. I did the last question. It looks like it came in from John Landy. You came up in conversation on Monday that I had with Gary from ADR Notable about the coach that you've built, which I was planning on reaching out to you to talk about because one of the things that we don't have in the platform is kind of that side conversation with the mediator as the proposals are coming in. And so that's something that is on our roadmap to kind of replicate a conversation that you would have on the side during the mediation. So curious to talk to you about your tool and whether that could help us. But let's get into the questions. Michelle, I think you can stop sharing, I
Okay.
suppose. All right. Where did we leave off?
We answered Leah's question. So
Okay. Okay, what happens if the parties are unable to reach a settlement after hours and days? Can an API be added to allow parties to agree through a submission agreement to proceed for arbitration? So right now, the way that it works is the parties have 7 days and 15 proposals to resolve the dispute. If they need more time or more proposals, they can buy that for a nominal fee. So they can continue the mediation as long as they feel like they're making progress. In the enterprise version, which is kind of what we showed you, the mediation provider version, there are no caps, no time caps, and no proposal caps. And so you as the mediator could kind of just try to make sure that they're engaged and still on track. And then if they aren't, you can kind of step in and see what they want to do or what they want to do for next steps. Um, we can build APIs. We don't have one now. Allowing them to proceed for arbitration directly from our platform, but certainly something we could discuss. What were you thinking about there? Is it Umar?
Yeah, hello. Yeah, thanks for the explanation. And I think you've clarified the points I was trying to raise here regarding the need to kind of have finality of the process itself. And I think this is key. But again, I understand that they have to pay. They can buy more hours, to keep, negotiating, and at some point they'll reach a settlement. I think that's a good point. And perhaps in future we can also consider different layers of things, having an API that'll connect to, some sort of online arbitration or so.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Yeah, so we do have standard, dispute resolution language for that you can put into contracts on our website, and we have a partnership with New Era ADR. They obviously do mediation, but they also do arbitration, and so they're kind of our preferred arbitration provider in our contract language, but that doesn't mean that we need to graduate to them. You can really go to any arbitration provider from our platform. And you have the proposal history to kind of see what if any progress has been made before you take that next step. Okay, Robert, how
Colin's
many?
got his hand up.
What? Sorry?
You have your hand up in case. Oh, now you're on mute though.
Colin, you're muted. We missed that.
Yeah, I just realized that.
I'm sure it wasn't
I
me.
don't want to jump the queue, so feel free to keep answering in the chat, but I do have something that I want to say as well when you're ready to strike me in.
Great. Okay, how many parties are supported? Right now, two. This is, meant for common two-party disputes. Maybe there will be a day where, it allows for three or more parties, but, the goal was for this to be used in landlord-tenant, employer-employee, homeowner-contractor, like the day-to-day disputes that come up often. So right now, two parties.
Well,
I think
yeah,
I
I
just
just want
answered John Land's
yeah,
question right after that.
yeah.
So what content conflicts would this be appropriate for? Like I said, I just listed the ones that are most common. Um, you know, Inappropriate, I always say don't use it for bet the company litigation. Don't use it for super complex disputes, disputes over 25,000. Like it's meant for the common everyday disputes. It can be used on any type of dispute. But we really think it's kind of the day-to-day things that come up that's where the platform really shines.
And I'll just add that the other places it's inappropriate for where a court would need to step in. So think family law, conservatorship, bankruptcy, those kinds of things. We couldn't use the platform for that because those require separate legal approval, class action
Look,
settlement, those sorts of things.
the platform can be used for
For
mediation, but
mediation.
obviously we have a disclaimer if you pick family or personal dispute that you will probably need more court proceedings in order to finalize this. Okay. Uh, Are the proposals generated from prior case law? Does Adri evaluate evidence? So the proposals are not generated from prior case law. That is something that we would think about incorporating, if we were able to raise funding. Right now, Adri is trained on a variety of things, one of them being the ICODR standards that you've promulgated and the ABA's similar standards for the US. So Adri's trained on the ethical standards that kind of govern the profession. Frank and I have also trained her on what good looks like as far as here are, you can kind of feed in anything you think will be helpful in training. And so here are the types of disputes that you'll see. Here's 50 examples of good settlement proposals. Um, and lots of other things that we've trained her on in the back end. And we are looking to kind of layer in, case specific, or state specific law, but we haven't been able to now. So we use 3 different LLMs to power the platform. And it's the combination of those that kind of generates the proposals. Does Adri evaluate evidence? Also not yet. When I talked about kind of building that online dispute resolution ecosystem, one of the things we want to add to the platform, but I'm sure someone else has already built it and built it better, is the idea of like a case score, right? So you upload your position, your documents, and it comes up, your case is strong in this way, but it's not in this way, like similar to what a mediator would do to kind of get movement between the parties. So we are looking to partner with an organization like that to kind of give that kind of case score type element. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Is Adri trained to make proposals to parties the parties are most likely to accept? I think, this is kind of answered by the previous question, but, she's not trained to split the baby. So, it's not a math equation for Adri. There's a lot of sophistication that goes into the prompt engineering to tell her, here's how you do your job. Here's how you evaluate the case. Here's how you should generate proposals. And so there's a lot of guardrails that we put in through prompt engineering. That's another way that we train that basically says, here's how you do your job and you don't just split the baby, like come up with creative solutions. I think that's one of the ways that AI really shines is, the parties may box themselves into, I want this. But Adri can come up with creative proposals that maybe the parties hadn't thought of. Okay. Can a party be directed to legal advice within this technology? Y'all are like, I think you've seen our feature roadmap and you just, we're in your head. So no, the idea down the road, I've always said I want to put a marketplace of lawyers to sit on top of the platform. So if you need legal advice in a particular state for a certain type of dispute, that you can kind of, go into that marketplace and get it right away. But it's not there yet, but also on the roadmap. Okay, foundation models. So we're using Gemini, OpenAI, and then a model called Gwen. Quen. I never pronounce it correctly, but we always make sure that the models we select do not train on the data that is given to them. So none of our models train on user data. That is priority number one anytime we're looking at an LLM. And because we access it through API, it doesn't train on the data that is shared about the dispute. Obviously, it's very sensitive data that we don't want the LLMs training on.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not training is only 5% of the risk, right? Because the models do log data. They do keep prompt history in case there's subpoenas. And
Hmm.
and the fact is that the real problem is at least you should have DPA agreements with the models, not just do not train. Do not train is just, like I said, a very small percent of the risk. And DPA agreements are more important in terms of data processing, things like that. So,
Okay. Noted, and we will definitely look into that for the LLMs that we're using. Okay. Um, would the signed settlement agreement normally be seen as enforceable in court, even if a party realizes they've agreed to something unreasonable? How we instruct our users is that the mediation settlement isn't binding until you sign a settlement agreement or something else to bind the mediation. And so we do take the position that the signed settlement agreement is enforceable in court. Um, and if a party realizes they've agreed to something unreasonable, um, I don't see it as any different from a regular mediation where, I don't know what you do after the fact if you don't like the terms. I think it's similar to if that would happen in a human mediation. How do you undo it? That's complicated. So I think we just take the position that it's enforceable once it's signed.
And basically, it's as enforceable as any contract is, and that's going to be dependent on the contract itself. If I have a contract with Renee saying that I'll stop, burning down her lawn, that may not be enforceable. We could still have a contract, and we'll have to go to court to have a judge tell us whether or not that's a binding agreement. But from a logistical and practical standpoint, these agreements they're written, they're documented. There is consent to sign them. If a judge takes a different position, that could be the case. That's true of any contract.
Okay, we're almost there. We're almost there. Okay. Great work, Renee and team. Thank you. Do you consider this as conciliation or mediation in the true sense? I don't know. You tell me. We've heard people say it's facilitated negotiation. We've heard people say it's mediation. We've heard people say that it's not mediation because it's not an exact replica of what happens in a human mediation. We've tried to take what we think are the best parts of mediation, and use AI and kind of, like I said, we kind of flipped the mediator's proposal to the beginning to create this system. So I'm curious, what do you all think? Is it mediation? Is it facilitated negotiation? I'm going to flip it all back to you.
Fairly neutral evaluation,
Okay.
essentially.
I
Yeah.
like.
Renee, maybe this is related to the point that I wanted to make, so maybe I'll insert myself here.
Please.
I just want to compliment you guys, first of all, on this. The platform is beautifully designed. I can see you have long careers in technology, and as a product person myself, I think very intuitive, very clean, and it's amazing integration of very powerful AI into a way that's very helpful to the end user. So that's a massive contribution. You're talking to a crowd that's been thinking about this for a long, long time, and I think we've often spoke about, well, AI-powered mediation is over the horizon. So now you guys are showing it off, right? So everyone's like, wow, this is pretty exciting. It does feel like, okay, we're peering into the future here. But mediation means different things to different people, right? And we certainly have transformative mediations, much more relationship focused. We have more facilitative mediation. I'm a facilitative mediator, so I don't come in. I never tell parties what I think the outcome should be. I ask reframing questions, and they go through a joint problem solving exercise themselves. My job is to assist their negotiation. I think this is a little bit more of evaluative mediation. And I think again, this is sort of a lawyer mediator approach. It's like, and that's what an injury case is. Like we have to figure out how much money is going to get paid from party A to party B to resolve this case. So, um, I'm a big fan of Frank Sander, who's one of the fathers of ADR, and he talked about fitting the forum to the fuss. So this platform is a great fit with certain dispute types, right? But as you say, maybe this isn't the best thing for a family dispute, because Adri is not necessarily trained to put together parenting plans and do screening for intimate partner violence and things like that. Maybe eventually it will be. But I think you called this out at the beginning too. It's a little bit controversial for a lot of mediators to start out with a statement, and oftentimes mediators will give their idea of what they think an outcome should be, but only after the parties really have tried a lot themselves to work it out. And mediators oftentimes will engage in lots of reframing questions and putting things out there and reality testing. So putting an idea out at the beginning about what a resolution should be, especially if it's just based on the two proposals from the two parties. I mean, if Adri's not evaluating something outside, like you could say to ChatGPT, what do you think a fair resolution to this case would be, independent of any evidence, and it would come back with an opinion. Well, a fair resolution is this. But sometimes parties may come in. I don't know what Frank put in his initial proposal, but he could have said, I want $500,000, and it's like, well, is that reasonable? Is that not reasonable? So I think it is interesting to think about this as sort of a lawyer mediator kind of evaluative mediation model. And I think what Colm said is right. This is sort of an early neutral evaluation slash kind of settlement conference approach, which may be perfect for certain types of disputes. But you guys are like the icebreaker. You're going out and you're figuring this out. You're the first people to do this. I remember when we were at eBay, we were solving problems for the first time, and you guys, you're taking your formidable technology and product skills and thinking, okay, how do we take this power of AI and put it into the mediation context? And that's a huge contribution. But again, you're going to get a lot of different opinions from different mediators because when you say this is AI assisted mediation, they have their own baggage around what they think mediation is because there's so many different mediations. So
Absolutely.
that's my response.
Yeah, and I agree. And I think that's why we've built it for human in the loop, right? So if someone comes in and they're like, I want $5 million, and the other person says, I can pay 500, our software is not going to work for that, right? That's where the human comes in. That's where hopefully they have counsel on each side that can say, okay, that's crazy. So that's, not what this platform is yet. But, I do, like I said, we're hoping to build in some elements of that where you kind of have the coach on the side, the case evaluation, to kind of layer in those components of human mediation that are also excellent. Okay. Couple more. Are there plans for voice? So we didn't show this, but you can actually complete the intake chat with voice to text. So there is that element already in the system. I don't know if it works on the proposal responses. I don't think it does, but we are kind of layering in voice elements that you can use. All right. Leah, thank you. We really appreciate that. And yes, it does comply with the standards. So we should talk about that.
Can I jump in for 1 second
Yep.
just to say, because other people on the call may want to hear this or read it too. Glad to hear that. And as soon as we get off, I'm going to move you guys up to the top section that shows that you comply. And so anyone else who's working on a platform or knows one that complies with the NTCDR ICODR standards, which are now the ISO standards, please let us know because we will put you at the top of the provider list. And it's a way of helping to ensure that the field is addressing the ethical standards. So it's fabulous to hear that you all comply.
Thank you. Yeah, it was important to us in V2. We got some feedback from practitioners of, you should really train it on the applicable domestic and international standards. And so we jumped on that. Let's see. What are the ways that the third party mediator with the dashboard interacts with the parties? Right now, so this is another one that I might turn back to you. Right now, it's what Michelle showed you so you can kind of follow along. You get email notifications as to what's happening, and you kind of determine if you need to jump in. So if maybe there's been inactivity for 3 days, someone's not engaged, but we are building out a very robust mediation provider dashboard that will give a lot more visibility. We've been thinking about like a chat function between the mediation provider and the parties. So we are building that out now. Bill, I may throw it back at you. What would you expect to see?
It feels like I don't understand the need for the third party mediator to claim that they're working when the AI is doing the work. So I'm wondering if they can do more work, provide more value by somehow engaging more with the parties. So that's sort of what I was wondering is how they might, add value because the AI is doing the heavy lifting right now.
Right. So they will be able to in the update that we're doing, they will be able to see the full transcript of the intake chat. And so they can probably look at that and determine if like our emotions going off the rails here, like is there any massaging that they need to do with the parties to kind of get them into a place where they're open to settling. Like I said, if there's inactivity, they can jump in. If the parties are really far apart, just to start, they can jump in at that point. And it's meant for mediation providers as like actual trained mediators, but also if you think of like the Better Business Bureau, they could have an administrator use the platform and try to get the parties through this and then involve a human mediator, if the parties aren't able to settle. And so it's meant for not just mediation providers that are mediators, but also administrators who are maybe just trying to get a high volume of cases moving and settled. There's different ways that you could interact with the parties in that way.
So, Renee, we could do this all day.
I know we
We
could.
love this, but I do want to respect everybody's time here because we've signed up for an hour and we do have some European participants who probably need to go to bed. But this was mind-blowing and very, very cool and wonderful to have you here. And thank you so much for being willing to share and go through all the questions. I mean, that's great. Normally I have to say to speak. No, focus on the questions. You didn't. You went right there. But we are very eager to welcome you into this community and to thank you for all the hard work you've done. And thank you so much for paying attention to the ICODR standards and thinking about ethical practice because it does feel like this is the future. You've got your hands around it. So we are looking forward to continuing this conversation with you. And I think you said you're going to be at the ODR forum in
Yep.
Harvard later. It's not too far from New Hampshire. So hopefully we'll be able to meet you in person and see the further progress you're making. But I want to thank you so much for taking the time today, and let's keep the conversation going.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And Colin has my email address if anyone wants to reach out. If you have any use cases or just want to talk and nerd out about all this stuff, we are always open.
Fantastic. All right, thank you, everyone. Great to see you. Have a
Thanks,
wonderful
everyone.
weekend,
Thanks,
and
everyone.
we'll reconvene again soon.